Hello everyone. Today I will be showing you guys how to make a box plot using multiple categories. And here we have three separate categories based on the top 20 ranks of men's powerlifting. All of these values are in terms of pounds, and the categories are squat, bench press, and deadlift. So I went ahead and took the liberty of transferring all of this data onto a Google Sheets. And here we go. So now I went ahead and also made a separate table on the side, and this is where we will be making all of these calculations, and I'll show you right now which functions you need to use to make these calculations. Once you make these calculations, this is the data that we will be using to make our box plot. So here we have the minimum. So the minimum squat, we go ahead and select the data for squat, and we just put the minimum function, which is equals min, and then the range that you want to use here. So from column A2, that means column A, row 2, all the way down to column A, row 21. And we do the same thing over here for bench press, deadlift, and the total. Now the total was calculated by using the sum function, which is equal sum, and then just select the row across from it and presenter, and then you could go ahead and drag that function all the way down, or you could input it individually, but I suggest you just go ahead and use this little drag button and then drag it all the way down. So now for the first quartile, you can go ahead and type in quartile and then the range as well. So we have A2 to all the way to A21. Notice how over here we have a comma 1. That's because it's referencing the first quartile. And we go ahead and do the same thing here. So for bench press and deadlift, and also the total. Now the median has a similar function, which is median, same thing as the name, and select the data that you want to get the median from. So it's the same thing all the way through here. And finally, the third quartile is very similar to the first quartile. The only difference is that over here we go ahead and plug in a comma 3 because it's referencing the third quartile. And now we have the maximum. So we go ahead and use the maximum function, which is equal max, and select the data that you want to know the maximum for. All right, so now what we go ahead and do is I'm going to click this button here that says insert charts. And it has no data because I haven't selected any data. And go down to chart type. And we're going to go ahead and do candlestick chart. So here it's going to go ahead and ask you for the range of your data. So the range is going to go ahead and be each individual row. So we have our squat from here all the way to here. Add another one. So you can click on bench, then click on shift on your keyboard, and then left click on your mouse. Add another range, and our final range here. Then go ahead and press OK. So now the next thing is we want to do horizontal, but let's not worry about that too much right now. Now our x-axis is going to be all of these values from the squat all the way to the total. Our low range is going to be our minimum. Our open, that's referencing the first quartile. Then we have our close, which is referencing the third quartile. And finally, our high, which is, of course, our maximum here. So there we go. So now we have all of these values into separate quartiles here. Or sorry, all of these values into separate categories. And let me undo here. All right. So next we can go ahead and change If you want to see some ticks, I usually add 4, and we can kind of get a little bit better data that way because it's kind of difficult to see it otherwise. Our chart title, we can click on chart name here, so we can put top 20 powerlifting lifts, right? And you can add a subtitle here: squat, bench, deadlift, and total. Okay, and we can also name our vertical axis here, or we can change the range as well, but we can put our vertical axis here as pounds. And then we can put our horizontal axis as type of lift. All right, so now what we can do next is we can go ahead and click on your Google slide here. And then you have to go to Insert, Chart, and then from Sheets. So it'll bring up the latest one that you created. So, and if not, then you can go ahead and type it in to whatever you named it. Select that and select your graph here. Press import. There you go. So I hope that helps.